There is some big news from Rochester, New York in the field of quantum communications. Welcome back to Techstination. I'm Fred Fishkin. With us from the Rochester Institute of Technology, our Professor Stefan Preble, Bosch and Lum Professor in Microsystems Engineering and Director of the Microsystems Engineering PhD program. A mouthful there. And PhD student and researcher Vijay Sundaram. And from the University of Rochester, Professor Nick Vamivakas, professor with the Institute of Optics, Physics, and Materials Science. Thank you all for joining us. That's all the time we have. Thank you. Okay, let's get started. So the headline is the Rochester Quantum Network uses single photons to transmit information over dual fiber optic telecommunications lines. This is a connection, I think, between the two campuses. Let's talk about the accomplishment and what it means. Who wants to lead off here?
Yeah, I'm happy to start. And thanks for spending some time with us here today. We're really excited to tell all your viewers. I think I saw it as it posted on YouTube and your website, all about the Rochester, New York. It's not Rochester in other state, but Rochester, New York, Quantum Network. So in the future, we're going to have a quantum internet. And throughout the entire country, we are starting to see different cities establish quantum links between universities and companies and government labs. And what we've created is the first one in the Rochester, New York area. And there's others within New York State. So we envision, just like the internet, that eventually one day we'll be linking all of these initial small networks together into a network that goes across the entire United States and maybe one day the entire world, focus on quantum technologies. So I think that's kind of the high-level overview. I'll turn it over to my colleagues to see if they have anything they'd like to add to that.
Well, yeah, let's talk about what you can add and what the implications might be.
I guess one of the main advantages for having all these quantum networks is that the information that you send through them, specifically if you encode it on single photon states, are extremely secure. They cannot be broken by any classical code breaking algorithms. So that's kind of the main advantage of why we are using single photons in this network. We've managed to send actual single photons from RIT to UFR through our network right now. That's kind of our main first accomplishment that we have so far.
And Nick, what is your simple explanation of the significance here and how this will advance quantum computing perhaps in the future?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Just first echoing what Vijay had said is that one of the advantages of using quantum light like we have is it gives us an opportunity to communicate in a physically secure way that we know can't be eavesdropped or hacked upon. And that's then important, as you just said, Fred, is if we wanted to create a quantum computer that potentially had nodes living at RIT in the University of Rochester, we could use this quantum network to facilitate the quantum connection of these two computing nodes in a way that is not only secure, right? We have that physical security and the communication between the two nodes, but then we could potentially, and this is kind of looking a little bit down the road or maybe way far down the road, but we would have the opportunity to do computing in a way that allows you to tackle problems that are otherwise intractable on a quantum computer. So some of the favorite things that we or excuse me, a classical computer, right? So the kinds of things you could imagine, when we're really dreaming are using quantum computers in fields like, drug discovery, in fields like simulation. So there's lots of things we don't know about the world because the computers we have right now just aren't able to simulate them. They're too complicated. And quantum computers are pathways into doing just that. Now, we don't want to mislead you. We're not like inching up next to that right now. We're still pretty far away, but this is just one small step on a path that has these, I think, pretty lofty ambitions if we can get to the end of the road.
Where are we today? And we may not know all that's going on in other countries, perhaps, but where are we today in terms of bringing quantum computing to bear on some of these problems?
Yeah, so we're definitely in the early days, right? We like to always use analogies of classical computing. So you had like these notable accomplishments like the ENIAC computer. So it seems like we're kind of in that stage, but certainly given the rapid pace of technology advancement, we're able to accelerate things much more quickly. But in terms of quantum, and that's what the work is trying to address, is there's not one clear quantum technology that is a leader for computing. So to get a little bit more technical, you can use atoms, and quantum mechanics is literally the theory that describes of how atoms work. But the challenge with atoms is how do you isolate a single atom? You got to come up with techniques for doing that. There are photons, and that's our focus, but our challenge with photon-based quantum computing is that they move at the speed of light. So by the time you try to do a computation with them, they've gone many, many miles away. And then what actually has been having the most, we'll say, commercial success, you have Google and IBM with systems are based off of superconducting circuits. So they're made using the same microchip fabrication technology, but these chips have to be cooled down to very cold temperatures so that they are superconducting. And that's needed because for quantum, the whole idea is you create a quantum state, or and specifically you exploit this principles of quantum superposition and entanglement. And those states are really, really sensitive. So they have to cool it way down to isolate them from the environment. And the challenge that these superconducting-based quantum computers is having is that they still have a lot of errors because they interact with environments, and they need to just keep perfecting them. So ultimately, in terms of what quantum computing is gonna, what type atoms, photons, superconductors are gonna yield the best quantum computer, that's still kind of out there. But each one kind of has its pros and cons, as we would say. And the pro of photons is that they are what are connecting us. Our interview here today is fiber optics that's connecting everything together. So ultimately, what we are focusing on is being able to connect these different types of qubits together using photonic networking through fiber optics.
So all these computers need to be super cooled, I guess, is one way to put it. The
superconducting
communication line can be just
that's
normal
room temperature. So that's a really exciting thing that we demonstrated. And actually, Vijay, he's presenting literally the title of our talk is RockNet at a international conference that's in California called Clio. He just gave his talk.
Oh no,
It's sorry, it's tomorrow. Yep. So he's giving a talk tomorrow on RockNet, and he'll be showing that we were able to achieve these results completely at room temperature, at least in terms of the fiber optics. So we don't have some huge refrigerator going from U of R to RIT. It's just using regular old fiber optic cables that we're assuming some in the ground, some on telephone poles.
The only big refrigerators are carried by Uber Eats, I guess, to deliver food.
Yes.
So tell us, I mean, moving forward here, are there limitations on distances that this technology can be used through?
Yep. The most right now in these fiber channels, the biggest limitation is loss. So the quantum signals are extremely sensitive, and they can all easily be lost as the distance increases. And unlike classical systems where you can just have like an amplifier or a repeater which boosts the signal at fixed lengths, you cannot do that with quantum signals. There is this no cloning theorem which states that you cannot make perfect copies of a quantum state. You cannot make multiple perfect copies of a quantum state. So we don't have like an analogy, like a quantum repeater so far that's like fully established. There are some in-lab demonstrations that have been shown, but we don't have like a fully mature quantum repeater architecture. So that is something that we will be focusing on going forward.
You're a young fellow, PhD student.
Mhm.
What is your explanation to people, maybe other students or family members, if they ask you, so what does this mean? How is this going to change things, this technology?
So I think when people hear quantum computers, they kind of envision that to be like the next generation of classical computers. So they're not like, you're not going to have quantum laptops someday that all of us can use. Quantum computers, they solve very specific problems that are really difficult or technically impossible to solve by classical computers, either because they demand a lot of storage, that the information needed to be encoded will surpass like all the atoms of the universe, or they will take really long time to solve. That is, the time scales that you can solve them on classical machines would again be longer than the age of the universe. So whenever you have really, you need a lot of storage or a lot of time, those are problems that where quantum computers come into place, because the information that can be encoded on these quantum bits or qubits exponentially scale up when compared to information on classical bits that our computers use today. So, and these specific problems, you can usually find them in any fields that need some kind of optimization. So if you want to search for a particular item in like an unsorted list, I guess if that's too abstract, if you want to simulate like a new molecule for like a drug discovery, for simulating new medicines, so those are problems where a fully quantum computer can simulate those fully quantum systems in much faster than classical computers can. Or I guess classical computers cannot simulate those in realistic timescales. So those are things that quantum would come into place. And of course, security is a big concern. So all the security protocol that our computers and internet use today are based on this RSA encryption, which basically comes down to the fact that it's really difficult to factor big numbers. And classical computers cannot find the prime factors of really big numbers really fast, but a quantum computer can. There are quantum algorithms which can do that. So, but luckily, since quantum computers can break existing classical cryptography systems, there are also quantum methods to make these keys which are really secure, that even other quantum computers can't break those. So we are creating a problem and then immediately solving it as well.
So
So I
we need
guess
quantum computers to protect us from quantum computers.
pretty much, yeah. I guess there are some quantum secure classical algorithms as well that I think even RIT has some courses that offer those in cybersecurity.
Yeah, it's kind of like an arms race. They're preparing for these quantum computers to eventually be here because we are making such rapid progress.
And Nick, how do we overcome some of the issues when it comes to the distance, the communications? You're able to do this between the two great universities there.
Yeah, so we were lucky in that Rochester Institute of Technology is only a handful of kilometers away from the University of Rochester. So we can use optical fibers to make those connections, and we don't have to worry about practical things like loss, right? That would limit our ability to get light from RIT to the U of R. There are challenges, as Vijay was saying, as you increase the distance above a few hundred kilometers, then you have issues with needing to amplify or recreate the quantum signals that you want to share. And there are approaches that people are actively working on to do that. We call these in let's say classical telecommunications repeaters. So in quantum communications, you guess we call these things quantum repeaters, and they're tricky to get to work, but certainly essential for linking different cities together, as Stefan was saying at the beginning, right? If we really wanted to make a connection from Rochester down to New York City, to the quantum network they have there, our choices are to every few hundred kilometers, you have some kind of quantum repeater, or maybe we do some kind of, like, even though we're focusing on fiber optics, here in the Institute of Optics, we have lots of people who work on satellites and space communications, right? And so you can imagine having, I envision in the future that quantum networks will have bits that are fiber optics and bits that are free space optics, and maybe even beaming up to satellites down to another location in the country to communicate quantum information. So built into that's easy to say, but there's huge technical and engineering challenges to make that all work.
Clearly, but to a layperson like me, isn't the answer ask the quantum computer to devise the solution?
We wish.
That's right.
Yeah,
a
that's a
little more
challenge,
complicated.
a point that Vijay made that I think is worth emphasizing. Quantum computers are not general purpose computers. They are able to solve these really hard problems, which we need to be solving them, right? Because if we can have a quantum computer that can discover drugs that can cure all these diseases, we really would love to have that technology. But it's not going to take over our traditional technologies by any means.
And the
It's more to
science fiction
complement it.
writers who say, okay, you combine the quantum computers with AI and you've got a monster.
Yeah, I don't foresee that.
So this was supported by the Air Force Research Laboratory, I understand. Tell us about the importance of funding and the issues that you're dealing with there. Obviously, top of mind for a lot of us today.
Yeah, so certainly public funding for research is absolutely critical for moving these technologies forward. Uh, like I said earlier, we are still honestly in the early days of these things. And commercial investment really isn't quite there yet. The technology is getting there, but so many of these things, or there's still so many big challenges, particularly on the repeaters, and it's just way too early to have like venture capital invest in it. So really, the governments have traditionally been that source for these early studies into technologies. It's really important.
And I guess I don't know if you want to chime in, Nick. Without that kind of support,
I would,
things
I would
don't
echo. I
happen.
mean, yeah, exactly right. I think Stefan kind of hit the nail on the head there, that this really early stage, fundamental, in some ways, blue sky research, the outcomes can be hugely impactful, but right, the risk to getting there is just so high. And so it's just typically not the kinds of work that we find companies or industry partners wanting to fund, just because the risk return is just so high. And the timeline for deliverable is, if I've worked with industry on other projects, is maybe on the time scale of months to a year. With the kind of work Stefan and I have done here with Vijay, definitely there is progress being made on a regular basis, but that translation to a product is not going to happen in 6 months or maybe a year. It's going to take many years to get to the place where we're doing things that are have the potential to be commercialized. So yeah, I think that's
Exciting. I guess the days of the old Bell Labs and even I think Google for a time anyway, just out there doing pure research for research.
Yeah.
Everybody's looking for bottom line today, right?
Yep. I think the Bell Labs was a little before my beginnings as doing kind of research and engineering and working on challenging problems. But many faculty we have here are actually from Bell Labs, and they opine over the days when they were there in New Jersey doing all that great work is supported by Bell Labs. It just seems like now maybe it's something of the past, like you were just saying, Fred.
Exciting. So from here, any thoughts, final thoughts about where this goes and what the next steps are?
Yeah, so it's definitely all about scaling things up. One thing that we didn't really get into was the technical nitty-gritty, and maybe there'd be another opportunity to do that. But the really unique thing about our Rochester network is that we're implementing this technology on microchips. And by just like so many things, by putting it on a microchip, you get that the benefit of scalability. So now that Vijay has done this amazing work of demonstrating this proof of principle networking for these entanglement applications, we can now focus on scaling it up and making it so that we can do a distributed quantum network.
Vijay, you want to add anything?
Pretty much everything that he just said. The our niche is integrated photonics and everything on semiconductor. So I think one thing that sets RockNet apart from the other quantum networks is that most of our, or at least all of our qubits or quantum memories or whatever you want to link, we want to keep it on a chip. So it's really compact, and it's really easy to manufacture at scale. And we are using existing CMOS fabrication techniques that make all the transistors in your computers and phones. The same technology is used for making these chips as well. And you're also using existing fiber optic channels. So it's the same fiber optic channels that our internet runs on. So all the infrastructure is already in place. And we want to use that to make quantum technologies work, basically. That's like the long-term goal.
And Nick, does this become a commercial product someday that you folks share in, I guess, with the Air Force?
Yeah, I mean, I think the way we see it here right now is we want to build a test bed here that lets us work on distributed quantum networking activities between Rochester, I mean, the University of Rochester and RIT. As Vijay said, our focus, and Stefan said, our focus is on integrated quantum photonics and solid state quantum memories. I don't think that we will necessarily because just logistically nothing will like the whole network won't spin out, but just I could imagine coming up with a chip that we test in this test bed that in the near term could be something that is commercialized, really focused on, Stefan could probably comment better here, but on generating quantum states of light in an integrated photonic fashion. So the test bed allows us to test and characterize and understand its inner workings. And then once that gets ironed out, that's the bit that gets commercialized and can go off and be used somewhere else. So it's more of it sort of spins things out of it. It's not something that necessarily gets replicated itself many times, the network.
And finally, is this technology attracting a new generation of students with excitement about it?
Oh, most definitely. Yeah, it's great that students are so excited about this quantum future that we're trying to build. So I'm constantly involving new students, really even in high school. I'm really excited about giving them the opportunities to explore it.
Yeah, I would like to add there too also, I think, in addition to Vijay, we work with a number of fantastic graduate students between RIT and U of R, but also we have undergraduates that have worked on this quantum network. And as Stefan was saying, even last summer, we run high school programs for students from Monroe County. This is where Rochester is, that come to both campuses. And a number of those students had experiences using the RockNet quantum network last summer as kind of a first touch into quantum science and technology. So we sort of connect with students at all different levels.
Terrific. Well, congratulations on the work you all are doing. And is there a place people can go for more info?
Yeah, so on RIT and University of Rochester's website, there's press releases about the work that Vijay led that was published just a couple days ago on, I think, April 25th in Optica Quantum. So check out the RIT News, University of Rochester News, and you'll find articles there about RockNet. And if you could even provide links, we'd appreciate it.
Terrific. Stefan, Vijay, and Nick, thank you so much for spending time with us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.